Good evening. You might be seeing this in the morning, but it is evening. Stephanie Joy here. And guys, I am just looking at an email I received from the SSA, and this concerns new rules that have come out with regard to SSI installments of retroactive back benefits. So for many of you who haven't gotten SSI yet, what you might know or not know is when you prevail, if they owe you, as they typically do, some sort of back benefit amount. It's very common to have back benefits. The back benefits would be the amount from the date you, at best, it would be the amount, the month of payments since you applied. And that would be the best result because it can never be before you applied. And feel free to look at the videos on protective filing for a way to affect what your application date is. But in essence, your application date and forward, unless they found that you had insufficient evidence to support the contention that you were disabled when you applied, and your evidence only was sufficient, in some time period later. Okay, so whatever your back benefit is, sometimes, as many of you know who have already prevailed, and perhaps some of you who don't, sometimes it's years before you prevail on the same application. So when you prevail, you could have, 4 or 5 years of some people of SSI back benefits when it finally pans out in the wash, whether it's through an ALJ, or maybe you were denied at ALJ, went to appeals council, got remanded back to the ALJ, and finally another hearing, and now you're 4 years later. So right now, SSI gross, the gross amount one can get is a little under 1,000. So let's say it was 1,000, just to make the numbers easy. If there were 4 years, while it wouldn't be $48,000 because of the prior years were less, but maybe you would have $30,000 in back pay. 30,000, 40,000, 20,000. Sometimes those back amounts, and this is an aside here, aside from what we're talking about in terms of the news here, but that back benefit can, if used wisely, and SSI, poor individual could use that for a down payment on a tiny little, not expensive house. I see people do it in very nice mobile park homes. The carrying costs they can otherwise well afford, ground rent and such. I've seen them buy tiny pieces of property in not expensive areas in the country, when they decide they're able to make that change and, the mental change of getting out there. So the back benefits can be really, really important. And there are, of course, still always going to be rules about your resources. So there are rules about the back benefits. But the issue of the day was, historically, they give you the back benefits in 3 installments. The first installment is 1/3 or something like that. The second installment is 6 months later, and the third installment would be 6 months after that. So in about a year, you get all of your back benefits. And that was to make sure you didn't end up keeping it too long, because then you would be kicked out of the SSI program due to your resources by saving it, right? Unless you put it in a house or in a car, things that you can have one of if you live in the house and you need the car. So they're probably getting a ton of people saying, listen, I really need it. Sometimes people need it because they've borrowed money from family to get by. They've had a roof put over their head with the understanding that that was a loan and they're going to pay it back. Sometimes maybe they use credit cards. It could be one of a million things. So my suspicion is SSI has gotten so many requests for, can you release it all now? Because you could request that they release it all now. We've done it many times, or assisted clients in doing that. But you had to always give reasons, and you had to apparently substantiate those reasons. Now, I have to say, I don't recall us ever having to substantiate much, but I don't know. But apparently that is the rule, documentary proof of the reason. I suppose that could be a back bill, or it could be, I don't know, if you say, I want to go buy this bungalow, or this cottage, or this, manufactured home so I can live in this park, with other manufactured homes, which I think is a really good idea. They whether it would be an affidavit that would be sufficient evidence of your statement under oath or 795, that's unclear. But now, and I'll go into it right now. This is transmittal number 35 to the POMS SI02101. It changes the key element in the release of back pay, which would be underpayments, right? When you're owed back pay, that means you've been underpaid to claimants. It will affect the release of large underpayments to adults and to children. Yeah, and they mentioned dedicated accounts for the kids, but that's not really the issue I'm talking about. The key change is that the reason a recipient needs more, documentation of the reason a recipient needs more than the standard installment, that 111 installment over the course of a year, is no longer required. So the documentation of the reason is no longer required, and the need for more than the standard installment can be alleged and approved without evidence, and that's in quotes. It is pointed out that this does not change the installment process or amounts or criteria, only that the documentation or verification of the reasons for needing more than the scheduled installment is no longer required. That's pretty big. I mean, you're going to have your reason. And if you just say, I just want to stick it under my mattress, that would not be the reason you were going to say, okay? It's going to have to be a reason, because again, the reason for the installment rule is to protect SSI beneficiaries from losing their SSI shortly down the road when they have too many resources. As it now stands, you get a certain amount of time in which to spend those installments. It's not like you get an installment and then you have to have it gone the next day. So they already have, exceptional periods of time in which to spend down your back pay. And I'm always urging people to think smartly about how you're going to spend down that back pay, because you could really do something to change your financial future for the rest of your life, particularly if you're going to be on SSI or possibly even eventually Social Security, because you can use that to pay down a bill that will pay you back forever, such as paying down a mortgage, for instance. That's my favorite. Otherwise, you pay down that mortgage, now you no longer have a mortgage, so your $943 a month is going to go to other things, as opposed to, well, I have a $700 mortgage. If you don't have a house, I've known of people who have taken big back benefits like that and used it as a down. Now it can be a little tricky. You might need a cosigner, possibly, but possibly not, depending on how much your down is. You have rather secure income, even though it's not very high. So, and it could be jointly buying something with somebody, where here you've got your little nest of money to put towards it, and now you have two people are owning a house. Anyway, that's a whole nother can of worms, but owning your own little place, if the carrying costs are doable under your SSI incomes, can be really, really a valuable way to spend it. Okay, so that's it on that, guys. I'm going to also, they have the whole details of the new rule, and I will post that up here as soon as I get a chance. All right. So anyway, it's good for SSI people. If you're waiting to get that SSI and you really were kind of concerned that you're going to have to go through this installment period, you don't have to. If you've got a semi-good reason for needing it, because you need it to buy something or to pay that bill or to pay back that debt. All of those are good reasons. And all of those will, be a spend down that's just fine. All right. Always keep receipts of your spend downs. If you're paying back that loan, get a receipt. Do it with a check. So when the check is cashed, and in the little memo part, you put, payback of loan. Keep everything documented so that they never, get an inkling to make sure you don't have those resources sitting around under your mattress, with any other savings you can disprove. Okay. Ciao, guys. Later.